All right, hello again. So in this video, we're gonna make some cards using Flexbox. Hopefully you've seen some stuff. I'm almost positive you've seen some stuff on Flexbox already. You can use it to make cards. So here's what we're gonna make. You can also use CSS Grid, and it actually might work a little bit better in some ways. And you may have already seen that, how to do that as well, but you will if you haven't sometime. So here's what we're making. We've got 3 cards here, and you can buy your very own planet. They have a description or like a little tagline and some stats and things, and there's a buy button. You can't really buy it because we haven't determined the price yet. Let's just say you can't really afford it. And I'm not sure Pluto's even a planet, so yeah, the button doesn't really work. But so if you resize, it's kind of responsive, right? It gets smaller and contracts, and then when you get to a breakpoint, it goes to single column, and then it starts to resize again. And then if I go to the mobile view, it works fine, right? So I can scroll up and down and buy. I think I'll buy Neptune. It's pretty. It doesn't work. I can't buy it. Plus, I don't have the Bitcoin, so I can't do it. Don't forget, you can look at these too, and you can spec in Firefox and maybe get a little better idea of what's going on with Flex. You can see stuff in Chrome too, and you can click on the little Flex button there, and it'll tell you stuff about. If you go to Layout, you can visualize some of the lines and things. Yeah, so don't forget that if you didn't see that before. Okay. So here's the starting file. Let's take a look at it real quick so you guys know what's going on. So we've got this section with an ID of planet card. So that's the whole thing, the whole container, the whole Flex container. And then you've got 3 planets. They each have a class of planet. Remember, you can reuse a class. You can't use an ID. Maybe you saw a video earlier where I reused an ID and I didn't notice, and you found it later. But anyway, if you want to do the same styles on multiple things, you can use a class. That's what classes are for, right? And inside of each one, there's an image of the planet, and then there's a tagline. There's some stats. That's these things. And then there's the buy button there at the bottom. So we're going to use multiple flex boxes in here. We're going to turn the whole thing into a flex box, and then we're going to turn the card into a flex box, and then we're going to turn the stats into a flex box. So lots of flex boxes. So kind of get some practice with it. That's what it's for, right? Okay, so let's go down to, sorry, I just wanted to save a copy before I change all this. So we've got planet cards here. That's this container here. So we're going to start adding some code right there. It says add code here. That kind of helps as a little marker, right? So we're going to say margin 0 space auto. So that's to center the whole thing. Let's make sure it's working. Let me preview. I didn't even preview it yet. There we go. And well, we can't tell because we don't have a width on it, but let's do a max width too. So I'm going to go below that, and I'll say max width, and let's do 1200 pixels. And I just want to make sure yeah. So there we've got, this is our Flex container now, or the planet cards container. By the way, everything is just stacked, right? It's just a bunch of divs and lists and things. And these images are different sizes. You probably, if you were doing this in real life, you would resize these ahead of time so that you're not sending a large image when you don't need to. You want to just make it the size you need or slightly larger, but pretending that we already did that. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this into a flex box. So we're going to go down below this and say display flex, the magic words, right? So what happens? Ooh, it gets kind of, it turns into a crazy puzzle made by Picasso or something. So not really. It's now gone to a row, right? So Flexbox by default is going to turn into a row, and it's going to go left to right by default. Hopefully you've seen that before, but that's what, now it's a Flex container. These are no longer behaving like block elements. They are side by side, a bunch of things like that. So we're going to style this mobile first, which means we want to put styles in that are going to work on mobile first, in the first place, because most people access their pages through mobile, right? Or a lot of Yeah, most people do. And then we're gonna shift it and add a media query after to make it for desktop. So we're gonna use the FlexFlow shorthand, which is I don't know if I've told you this, but it's kind of my favorite name for a CSS property. Sounds like a yoga class. Like, hey, let's get some FlexFlow class going. I don't know why I did that voice, but so I'm gonna say FlexFlow and column and no wrap. So as soon as we do that, it becomes a column again. So by default, like we said, Flexbox wants to go sideways. And then if you say FlexFlow column, and this is shorthand for flex direction and flex wrap. That's the shorthand. So we could have done it separately, but it's more fun. Did I say funner? It's more fun to say FlexFlow. Okay, let's add a little bit of space between these guys. Maybe you've seen this before, but we can use gap. Gap works in Flexbox and in CSS Grid. So I add a gap of 1 rem, which is about 16 pixels. I could have probably used EM too, or I could use pixels, but that made this space here. Yeah. So that's gap. I'm going to say align items and say center. And we might not see anything happen from this yet, but I think that's necessary later on. It's like a recipe, right? We don't know exactly how it's going to come out until we actually do it. But so align item center is supposed to center things along the cross axis. This is the main axis right now, and this is the cross axis. Hopefully you've seen that stuff before a little bit. So let's give the whole thing a max width. I don't think we did that yet. I'm going to do 1200 pixels, which is semi-standard. But okay, yeah, now we got it. So now it's all centered because we did margin 0 space auto. Things aren't the right size yet, but we're going to fix that. But they're still kind of stacking. So like I said, we're going to make flex boxes within, well, only about 2 levels deep of that. All right, so next we have a media query. So I think you've seen these before, but if you haven't, this means at media screen and min width 768 means if those are both true, it's a screen, and the minimum width is 768, which means above 768, we want to do these things, whatever's in between that bracket and that bracket. So it's kind of like a nested styles almost, but it only is going to work on a screen that's bigger than 768, right? You guys knew that, I think. So we're going to style the planet cards again a little differently when it is a bigger screen. So we put planet cards there, which is the same thing we have up here. This time we're going to say FlexFlow. Should I say it that weird way? No, I'm annoying you guys already. I'm going to say FlexFlow row. And I'll put no wrap again because I don't want it to wrap. So that means when we get to 768, it goes back to a row. So now we're getting there, right? We've got a column when we're on mobile, and we've got a row when we're on desktop. Right now it's doing some weird stuff with the sizing because of the images, I think, but hopefully that gets fixed. We'll find out at the end, huh? Okay, so I think that's good. So now we're going to go to Planet 1. Remember, Planet 1 is all 3 of these the cards, the actual cards themselves. So we're going to go where it says Planet 1. It has a background color, but nothing else in there, I think, yet. So you can go just below that if you want. I don't think it'll matter. And we're going to say Flex. Oops, nope, just Flex. Sorry. Flex, and we're going to say 11315px. So what that means is we're saying that's the flex shorthand. That means flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis. So we're saying yes, you can grow, yes, you can shrink, and try to be 315. It's probably not doing it right now because these images are bigger than that. So it does take the, it's like a suggested width in this case. But I think we'll get fixed here in a minute. I'm going to say give it a max width, and I'm going to say 500 pixels because I don't want them to get so gigantic cards. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. Now they are a max width of 500, so they stop right there. They can still get smaller because we have the flex shrink set, and they can still go up and down because they can grow and shrink. So it's kind of responsive, right? By default. So that's great. All right, so let's say, now we're gonna turn this into a Flexbox as well. So this was for the flex properties for this Flexbox, the Planet cards, but now we're gonna make this into a Flexbox too, so we can arrange things inside of them. So you can have nested flex containers. So how do we do that? We say display flex again. So we've got display flex, and now they go crazy again. Oh, we keep breaking stuff. But as soon as we do that, now once each one of these wants to be a row, right? Let's do our flex flow again. I'm gonna copy it because I'm lazy. Although I like typing flex flow. I'm gonna say flex flow, and I'm gonna do column, because I want it to be a column. I don't want it to be a row, I want it to be a column. All the time, right? So I'm gonna say flex flow column, no wrap again, and now we're back to columns again. Why did we do that in the first place and we got back to where we were? So we can play with how things are arranged inside of here. All right, so let's go and say justify content, and we're gonna do space between. And I obviously planned this out ahead of time. I kind of made it already. So that is justify content. Remember what that is. That is how are you going to divide up the extra space inside the container. And I think we're good on that. And then I think that's it for this one. Yeah, I think we're good. So now we're going to go to the stats. So these are the stats here. We're going to turn that into a Flexbox. Well, how many Flexboxes can we have here? We're gonna say display flex on that one. And then, whoa, it goes sideways. That's why we turned it into a Flexbox. So we could arrange these guys horizontally and spread them out in a certain way. So we're gonna say display flex. We're gonna put some gap in there. This time we're gonna use the shorthand. Well, we already used the shorthand, but we're gonna say gap 0 and then a space and then 1 rem. So what does that mean? That means when you have two numbers, it's going to be the gap on the top and bottom, kind of like margin and padding, well, exactly like it. And then the second number is going to be on the sides. So that made a little space between them so that they're not right against each other. But we're also going to spread them out in a different way in a second as well. So yes. So let's put some padding in there as well. I think I had a little padding on here. So let's put padding. And I'm going to do 0 and then 5 pixels. That's just some space inside of there. And then we already had list style none in there, so we don't have to worry about that. And let's do some margin. Oh, we already have margin too. I already have margin in there. I think we're good. Yeah. Okay, so next we're on to the list items themselves. So we're gonna say flex, the flex shorthand, and we're gonna go 1, 1, auto. What did that do? That said, we told it, yes, you can grow, so they grew. Let me take that out and you can see that again. So I'll take that out. So now they're crammed against, by default, they're kind of crammed next to each other in this case. And then, whoops. And then we put flex 1, 1 auto. That means yes, you can grow, yes, you can shrink, and use your content. Remember, this is flex basis. That means use your content as a guide for how big you are. Okay, and then what we're gonna do is to get those in the center. So if I inspect this, let's see. This is how we can visualize this a little bit. If I inspect this, you can see that they're all next to each other. Now this is a little bit, we had to make some adjustments, or you have to be okay with it. This one is a little bigger because it's got more copy in it, but you know, you can do that. It works better if they're all the same, but they don't have to all be the same. But right now you can see they're all just stacked up next to each other. We want it to be centered, the text to be centered inside of there. So all I'm gonna do to do that is just the old text align center thing. And now they're all centered. All right, so we are getting there. I'm in the mobile view. I should probably get out of that. All right, let's see what it looks like in the desktop. Getting there for sure. We just got to move this guy over. We're going to move this over and up, and then we might be about done. I think we might be done. So next we're going to go down to where it says Planet Tagline. It says add code here. We're just going to add a couple things. This isn't necessarily Flexbox, but maybe, yeah, a little bit of it is. So I'm going to say align self and center. Let's see if that does anything. Yeah, so what that did is it centered this tagline. So by default, it was aligned over here. So I said align self. Align self is how you can align individual elements. I probably could have done that somewhere else as align items, but we'll just leave it. It works. I think it works on all of them. So yeah, we could have done align items, I think, on the parent container, which is, yeah, but let's just go that way. So we'll say align self center. That says this is now centered in the cross axis. Definitely could have done that probably a different way, but it works. And then let's go to below that, and we're gonna do, we wanna move this up. So we're gonna use an old trick. We're gonna use transform. We're gonna use transform, and we're going to translate Y. And we're gonna say minus 50%. What does that do? Ooh. So that transform, translate Y minus 50% means transform is change, right? Translate means move, basically. Y is the vertical axis. Remember, Y is vertical, X is horizontal, Z is depth. I don't have a 3D screen here, but Z is depth. So when we say minus 50%, translate minus Y minus 50%, it moves it up half of its own size up. So that's why it's kind of centered on this line. Kind of cool, huh? So we got that to be centered on that line. I think you'll see it maybe in another video too. And then we want to make sure this is on top of the image, which it is now, but I'm going to make sure because I've seen this go under before. I'm going to say Z index 2. And that's just to make sure that this doesn't go underneath something else, because right now it's overlapping this image. It is sitting on top, but like if I did this, I think there's Planet 1 image in here. Yeah. If I said Z index 3, it didn't work. I was going to show you an example, but don't worry about it. I'm digressing. I think that's it. I'm going to right click on this and go to format document to clean this up a little bit. And I think that's it. Let's see if it works. So if I resize, I get 3 of these guys in a row, right? And then we've got our image, we've got our fun tagline, that's centered, that little thing. By the way, if you look in the code, we didn't look at this already, but there's a gradient inside of this container. That's why it kind of looks cool, kind of 3D-ish a little bit. And then we've got our stats, and then we've got our buy button. And if we resize, as soon as we get down to where it doesn't fit anymore, it starts to be responsive, and you may get some funky line breaks in here, but I tried to make it so that it didn't get too awkward. I could make that text a little smaller, that might help. This text here, it's a little cramped in there. And then it gets to the breakpoint, which is 768, and it goes to single column, and it looks okay that way. We've got a bigger margin, but that's the way it goes. And then if I inspect it and go to the mobile view, I think it's okay. So you could tweak some of these numbers and things and values, but I think that worked pretty good. What do you guys think? I can't hear you. Not yet anyway. But I think that is it for this one. So hopefully that helps with just applying some stuff that hopefully you knew a little bit about as far as Flexbox goes and Flex containers. And I think we made like 3 of them, right? 3 different kinds, 3 different times within each other. But I think that's it for this one, and I'll talk to you again later.